Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. This is Nikki McCoy, Technical Assistance Director for the Work at Health program, and I will be your host for this session. Welcome to the second in a series of events that will provide you with information about Work at Health and issues related to workplace health. Today's session will address some of the policies and environmental factors that support physical activity and wellness programs in the workplace. Before we begin, a few important announcements. This event is being recorded. The recording is available upon request to Work at Health customer service. Audio for this event is provided via broadcast. If you need technical assistance or to ask a question about today's topic, please use the Q&A panel on the right side of your screen. Although we will have a Q&A segment after the interview, you may submit a question at any time. Lastly, please note that this webinar is provided for informational purposes only. Employers should consult independent professionals to discuss how specific matters relate to their individual businesses. Now I'd like to introduce today's special guest. Dr. Kessar Mukhtar is a social scientist with the Division of Nutrition, Physical Activity, and Obesity Prevention at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. With CDC for over 15 years, she currently leads efforts to increase opportunities and incentives for worksite physical activity through policy, environmental, and social support strategies. Welcome, Kessar, and thank you for being here today.
Hi, Nikki. It is my pleasure to be invited, and thank you so much for highlighting worksite physical activity for today's discussion.
Well, great. Well, I just wanted to use our time wisely. I just want to go ahead and get started. So I'll begin with my first question. Why should a company invest in increasing their employees' physical activity?
There are a number of reasons for why companies should invest in physical activity. So to begin with, the physical activity benefits actually benefit the entire company, regardless of one's age, job type, weight status, health status, or salary grade. And we often tend to think of physical activity in the context of weight loss, but actually its benefits go beyond weight loss and actually even in the absence of weight loss. So to look at some of the benefits, physical activity lowers the risk of a number of adverse health outcomes, including heart disease, diabetes, stroke, high blood pressure, colon and breast cancer. Not only it lowers the risk of developing these conditions, but it is also the key to managing these conditions for people who already have them. It reduces stress and symptoms of depression. It improves sleep quality, memory, and mood. And physical activity also improves fitness, flexibility, ergonomics, and joint health, preventing falls and injuries. So healthy employees are happy employees. We know that. And they have higher job satisfaction, high morale, high level of energy, focus, and productivity. And they have a better work-life balance. And since workers are the most important asset of any company, these benefits then translate to benefits for the company, including cost savings and medical expenses associated with hospitalization, emergency room visits, and readmission. But we can see physical activity benefits are closely aligned with business performance metrics, and it's a win-win for all.
So you've talked about several reasons, and most of those include both prevention and management of many health conditions like heart disease and stroke, as well as helping to prevent falls and injuries at the workplace, as well as the more social reasons of having healthier, happier employers and being employees and then saving the company's money. When you look at a successful physical activity program in the work site, what do you think are the key elements to a successful program?
So going beyond the basics, such as preventive screening, leadership support, and all that, I will touch on components that are very specific to physical activity. So a successful physical activity program often will have a combination of supportive strategies, including education, policy and organizational support, structural enhancement, and social support with incentives to keep employees motivated. An example of educational support will be providing information to raise employees' awareness about the benefits of physical activity, and also to make them aware of the programs and benefits that are available to them. In terms of structural or environmental support, a company can provide on-site fitness center or provide free or discount gym membership. But we know that having access to a gym alone is not going to be enough. These efforts need to be supported with policies such as permitting time for physical activity during the work hours or having structured schedule policies so employees can balance the need to meet their work obligations as well as fit in their wellness into their life. Social support, I would say, is instrumental in changing and sustaining healthy behavior. Companies often would offer incentives for participation and for achieving goals, and also will organize team competitions. And physical activity programs will have greater impact if they're multi-level, if they're tailored to the group needs, and when they're integrated with other wellness efforts, such as healthy weight, healthy eating, or stress reduction efforts.
Great. So I think we've highlighted some key elements here, including the educational support and structural and environmental support, and the feasibility of maybe having an on-site gym or not, as well as the social support that would be necessary to change the environment. And everyone likes the, the campaigns and competition between them and their coworkers. So what would a business with very limited support, what could that business do to support their employees' increased physical activity?
That's a really good question, Nikki. We know that resources are important, but I would say that even more important is organizational commitment and engagement. Once you have that in place, the employees and the company can come up with a number of innovative approaches to make physical activity part of their culture and their daily routine. So for environmental support, I would say at a minimum, the company should aim to offer an activity room with shower and a place to change. And then depending on the location and the interests of your employees, you can consider a number of low-cost options. So if you have employees interested in riding their bike to work, you can implement a bicycling commuter program, which is a low-cost, environmentally friendly, and physically beneficial means of transportation. This can be done by investing in secure bike parking along with a shower and changing room, and you can also add incentives and skill building workshops as part of this program. The second thing you can consider is improve or increase the use of stairs, because we know that taking the stairs makes our muscles stronger and lowers the risk of osteoporosis and fractures. So where appropriate and feasible, we can encourage the use of stairs, but we know that people often don't use them at work because they perceive them to be unsafe or unattractive. And or they've just gotten used to taking the elevator. So by posting signs by the elevator, you can encourage the stair use. For safety, you can add carpeting or rubber tread so the surface is even, and make sure that there is enough, plenty of light, and then adding artwork and motivational signs will make stairs more attractive. And I would also like us to think about walking programs. So not all employees might be interested in taking the stairs or riding their bike to work, but walking is one physical activity that most employees can do. It does not require special skills or special facilities like having a gym. It can be done indoors or outdoors, alone or with your coworkers. So to establish an organized walking program, it is important to plan out the details such as who will be responsible for organizing, promoting, coordinating, leading, and tracking the walking program. Make sure that you have the leadership buy-in and dedicate staff time to coordinate the walking program because all these activities take up time and effort. You also need to think about how often and how far people are going to walk. And for structural support, you can either identify an existing safe and attractive walking route, or you can create one, and a map route with clearly marked distance and direction is very useful. Adding incentives and challenges that motivate employees and having the middle management tie-in is going to be critical to your walking effort. So those are some examples of companies with limited resources can do.
Excellent. Kesra, I'm going to ask if you could speak a little bit closer to the microphone. We're having a little bit of trouble hearing you. Thank you for that response, and I just want to make sure that you had a lot of good information there, and I want to make sure we all of the attendees hear that information. So you talked about the bicycle or commuter program and encouraging use of stairs by making sure that they're safe and attractive, adding artwork and motivational signs, also making sure that they're even by adding carpet or treads, and then you highlighted the importance of walking programs as well as making sure that you have leadership buy-in, and you could even mark out a trail near your office. And walking programs are especially important because you don't need to have special equipment to walk. So I want to make sure that we hit the high points of that because I think that will be very important to our listeners here. Is there anything I missed in that recap?
No, you did a great job, Nikki. And do I sound better now?
You actually do sound so much better, so thank you. All right, I have a few more questions I want to make sure we get to. You mentioned the walking program, and oftentimes we'll see our colleagues or folks walking outside. If you happen to live not here in cloudy but warm Georgia today, but live in colder climates or there's bad weather, how do you maintain your walking program in a situation where the weather is bad?
You know, I have to say that the past few months have been really challenging for the walking program. So, again, a great question. This is one question that we get asked often, not just in winter months, but also in summer months. And also there are times during the year when people who are sensitive to pollen or sensitive to the air quality are unable to walk outside. So just I would mention a couple of ways that you can maintain your walking program under those conditions. The best option is to create a mapped indoor route as you plan your walking program. And if this is not feasible, you can also reach out to your local shopping malls. Some are willing to open their facility even before the business hours, and others prefer that you use it during the business hour as it may increase their business. You can also reach out to local schools, colleges, and universities to see if you can use their indoor facility. And if you have access to an activity room, you can consider an alternative activity like holding Zumba or yoga classes for seasons when you know that it's going to be either too hot or too cold to walk outside.
Excellent. So we are about to open up for questions from the audience, but I want to ask you just one last question before we turn to the audience. So those of you who are listening in to Kessler, please feel free to ask your questions using the Q&A panel on the right side of your screen. So Kessler, we've talked about walking programs. For the listeners out there, how would they be able to tell, or what information could they gather to know if their walking program is working?
First of all, I want to say that, you know, often we make the mistake of implementing a wonderful program, but think about evaluation once the program has already started. I would encourage us to plan for evaluation from the beginning. Also determine the goals of your program and define success ahead of time and plan for how you will use the information. You can gather information a number of ways, by asking the participants, by observing, and by counting. You want to assess the process, outcome, and the impact of your program. So for part of the process evaluation, you might ask, was the time allocated for walking too much, too low, or just right? Was the walking route convenient and safe? The result of process evaluation can help you determine the usefulness of the program. A mature program will also want to do an outcome evaluation to determine if the goals of the program are met. And again, you have to define the goals from the beginning. And the result of this evaluation may help you fine-tune future walking programs. An example questions might be, how many people participated in the activity? How many started at the beginning of the program? How many actually completed the program? And then the impact evaluation looks beyond the goals and determines the effects of the program, both intended effects and unintended effects. And these results can help you revise the goals or expectations. So the kind of questions you might ask are, what did you like best or least about this walking program? Or do you feel more productive after walking meetings? So those are just some examples of ways to determine if your walking program was successful.
Excellent. So, Kessler, we're going to take a little bit of a break and start taking questions from the audience. So, again, I will encourage all of our attendees to ask questions, and you can submit a question by using the Q&A panel on the right side of your screen. The directions are there for you all. So our first question, a member of the audience says, I want to create a walking path around our work campus parking lot, complete with markings on asphalt and signage along the route. Do you know of a good resource for supplies or layout ideas?
There are a number of tools that we can share and make available, and they're also available on the CD's website for conducting walkability audits. And the only thing I would suggest that before diving into it, if you are in leased building, it's best to first consult with the building management folks, so you understand the protocol of changing or posting the signs and things like that.
Great, thank you. Another question we have from our audience is, how do you get a company to buy into a wellness policy when they are opposing it?
Now, you know, there are, I'm going to say that there is no simple and one answer that we can provide. However, we believe that the answer lies among those who are practitioners and have been overcoming those challenges. So perhaps, you know, a conversation among those who have been able to overcome those challenges will be useful. But in general, I would say, you know, it's always the first step is to make a business case for the company. And to make a business case, it is important to understand what is it that the company values. Is it the human resources? Is it the financial benefits, productivity, energy level, quality of life that these programs improve? As I mentioned earlier, in terms of the benefits of physical activity, they touch all areas of our life. So once you know what is it that the company is interested in, then you can build the case. And in terms of finding, it's always good to take some data and some examples to them, and the best place to find those examples are to look for case studies or experience or successes that other companies have had in developing a program.
Great, thank you. I want to say to one of our audience members who I think can help, provided some information about toolkits that could help. There is one, the Everybody Walk Collaborative has a toolkit, and luckily enough for all of us, National Walking Day is April 1st, and so that would be one coming up, as well as the American Heart Association has toolkits for National Walking Day. So there are some resources, and we will make this information available to all of our attendees post the call. So we will make that information available. So Kester, an additional question is, when you think about your walking program, how long should a walking program run?
So ideally, you would want to run it throughout the year. So you'll have an ongoing walking program, and you may switch up the leaders or the person who's coordinating it. You may do it outdoors, you may do it indoors. However, if that's not feasible, I would say that at least run it for 6 to 8 weeks, because you want to give people a feel of, you know, what it feels like to be part of a structured, organized walking program, and give them time to really understand and begin to feel the benefits of a walking program, how it builds up the social support for them, and also some of the productivity or change in energy level they will feel.
Great. We have an additional question, another one. It says, for those employees that actually give, for those employers that actually give time for wellness activities, what is the average amount of time this participant would like to develop a proposal for their leadership? So where should they go when they start, you know, what is the average time when they build this proposal for their leadership?
Like another great question. So let's look at the goal of physical activity. So at a minimum, if we do 2.5 hours of physical activity every week, and I'm talking about moderate activities such as brisk walking, then we're meeting the physical activity guidelines. That's the amount of physical activity that is required for us to achieve health benefits. And we know that one of the biggest barriers to physical activity is not having the time, not having the money to join the gym, or not having safe places to walk or bicycle. So, but we know that over 155 U.S. adults are at a job each day, and most of us spend more than half of our waking hours at work. So given the benefits, the win-win that's in here for employers and for employees, it really will remove one of the biggest barriers if the employees could do physical activity while they were at work, and it will be even greater if the employer gave them that time as part of their competency building, just like you provide training and safety to the employer. So going back to the question about the amount of time, 30 minutes per day for 5 days would certainly help us meet the physical activity guidelines.
That's great. We have a related question. There are employers, a new walking group, they only have 30 minutes to walk during their lunch break. What kind of goals would you set for that group? They're a new walking group who can only go on a 30-minute walk during their lunch break.
You'll be surprised at how much benefit you can gain just from a 30-minute walk. And given that you have a total of 30 minutes, it will probably take you a couple of minutes to gather in one place and get started. Anything is better, and I think 30 minutes sounds like a reasonable goal for most adults who are not physically active. That's a good place to start, and once they get used to it and once they recognize that they can actually do it comfortably, they may even exceed the goal and do it on their own time after work or before work.
Great, thank you, Kessler. So we are about to wrap up, but we have a couple more questions in the queue here. A member of our audience wants to know, how do you engage staff in a company undergoing restructuring, and they're also located in multiple sites?
So I think, when I said earlier that physical activity needs to be part of our routine and culture, so, and when companies are going through restructuring or reorganization or changes, that can be a stressful time for employees. And so that would be probably a really good time to incorporate physical activity into their routine. And it also helps you build your morale and energy, because you feel that your company might be going through changes, but they're still invested in the wellness and well-being of the employees. As far as the multi-site, if it's part of the company culture, then the leadership is going to ensure that all sites have similar benefits. Now, the activity might be different depending on the type of building, the type of work, or the type of environment. But anytime you do any wellness program, especially physical activity, it's important that all employees, regardless of where they're located, regardless of their job type or shift, they have the same opportunity.
Great. You know what, we're almost about ready to close up. Do you have any closing remarks, any high points that we want to hit, Kessler, before we close out?
Just again want to thank you for the opportunity, and I want to thank the audience for making the time and for really good questions. And I look forward to future opportunities for us to maybe hear back from, as I said, how employers in different settings, what challenges they face and how they're overcoming those challenges.
Great. Thank you so much, Kessler, for participating and sharing your time and expertise today. Thank you to our audience for participating. We value your feedback and appreciate your response to the rating poll on the right side of your screen. If you have questions or comments about today's session, please contact us at the information also on your screen. Please check your email for announcements concerning upcoming webinars, webinar events in April and May. Again, thank you for joining us. This concludes today's session.